Brookstone Reckoning. The night Justice spoke. The sun was setting gently over Brookstone Park, casting a warm, golden hue across the neighborhood. The air was still, the streets quiet, and families had begun retreating into their homes, the soft hum of dinner conversations replacing the rustle of leaves. It was, by all appearances, just another calm evening. Driving slowly through the shaded streets in a black Lexus ES 350 was a man whose presence commanded respect without ever asking for it. Justice Franklin Monroe, 63 years old, carried with him the weight of decades of integrity, rulings that shaped lives, and an unshakable sense of duty to the law. To most people, he was the embodiment of honor. But to one officer, lurking behind the wheel of a squad car 2 blocks back, he was simply a profile. A silhouette to be challenged. Franklin had spent the day presiding over a grueling case in downtown Atlanta, a civil rights dispute that had stirred both media attention and community unrest. He was tired, but not weary. His mind was alert, his senses calm. The jazz humming from his stereo, Miles Davis, always, offered a quiet counterpoint to the chaotic world he often navigated in his robe. As he turned onto Sycamore Lane, close to his home on Willow Bend Drive, he caught sight of red and blue lights flaring up in his rearview mirror. At first, he thought they were for someone else. Then came the siren, piercing and insistent. Franklin sighed. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't violating any traffic laws. His tags were current. Still, he signaled and pulled to the side. With practiced calm, he turned down the music, placed his hands on the wheel, and waited. The footsteps came quickly, confident, heavy. The beam of a flashlight sliced through the cabin of his car. License and registration. Barked a voice that held no courtesy, no softness, only command. Franklin turned to see a woman, Officer Rachel Lanning, early 40s, with a jaw clenched so tightly it seemed sculpted from stone. Her posture was aggressive, and her eyes darted across the interior of the car like they were hunting prey. "Evening, officer," Franklin said smoothly, not a trace of fear in his tone. "May I ask the reason for the stop?" "License and registration," she repeated, unmoved. With deliberate care, Franklin pointed to the glove box. "I'm reaching now," he said aloud, as his right hand moved slowly to retrieve his documents. He handed them to her. "Justice Franklin Monroe, federal appellate judge. I live 3 blocks from here." She didn't flinch, didn't blink. Her eyes skimmed the documents like they were written in code. "Step out of the vehicle," she said. Franklin's face didn't change, but his pulse kicked. "Excuse me. You heard me." Out of the car. Something had shifted. The atmosphere, once heavy with quiet, now hung electric, tense. Franklin complied. Slowly, he opened the door and stepped out, his suit still immaculate from court, his posture upright. "This is my vehicle. I purchased it myself. Registration is current." "Officer, I don't understand." Rachel Lanning's hand hovered near her holster. "This car matches the description of a stolen vehicle from last week." Franklin blinked. "That's impossible." But she didn't answer. Instead, she ordered, "Face the vehicle." And so, in the very neighborhood where he was a pillar, Franklin Monroe stood with his hands pressed to his car, a symbol of law and justice now treated like a suspect. The humiliation crept in, not because of the act, but because of its visibility. A second cruiser arrived. A younger officer stepped out, Officer Brian Keyes, early 30s, slender and tentative. His eyes flickered with unease the moment he saw Franklin and the scene unfolding. "Evening," he said to Lanning, almost cautiously. "Vehicle matches stolen description. We're searching it now," Lanning snapped. Brian hesitated. Shouldn't we confirm ownership first?" "Search the vehicle," she ordered. And just like that, Franklin Monroe's privacy was violated. They opened his trunk. Brian Keyes bent low, flashlight sweeping. Then he froze. "There's something here." He pulled out a black duffel bag, one Franklin had never seen. Lanning unzipped it. Bundles of cash. Plastic packets. The kind that looked like drugs. The kind that destroyed reputations. Franklin's heart sank. "That's not mine," he said firmly. "That wasn't in my car." Rachel Lanning smirked. "Of course not. You planted that," Franklin said, his voice steel. "You're framing me." Brian looked from Franklin to Lanning, then back. Doubt cracked across his features. "I'm a federal judge," Franklin stated, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. "You will regret this." The street remained quiet, but not for long. A porch light flicked on. Then another. Then another. Neighbors stepped onto porches, peering through curtains. Faces appeared in windows. And among them was Eleanor McKnight, retired school principal, community matriarch, and Franklin's longtime neighbor. "What is going on out here?" she called out. Franklin turned slightly, not enough to provoke Lanning, but enough to let her know he had allies now. "That's Justice Monroe," Eleanor called. "What are you doing to him?" More voices joined in. Phones were raised. The neighborhood was waking up. Lanning's posture shifted, just barely. But it was enough. She had an audience now. Brian Key's voice shook. "We should really run the plates." Lanning snapped, "Do it." Franklin remained still, watching. Brian went to his cruiser, radioed in. "Plate 8XJ419. Black Lexus ES 350. Registered to Franklin Monroe." A pause. Then, crackling through the static, "Vehicle registered clean. No reports of theft. Registered owner, Justice Franklin Monroe. Address matches ID." The crowd murmured. Lanning's smirk vanished. Franklin stepped forward. "Now tell them, officer," he said. "Tell them why you stopped me. Tell them what you found. Tell them why I was pulled from my car, why I was searched, why that bag ended up in my trunk." Silence. Then Eleanor's voice rang out, firm as thunder. "You better tell the truth." Officer Keyes looked like he wanted to disappear. Officer Lanning looked cornered. But then another vehicle arrived. Captain Thomas Delaney stepped out, silver-haired, barrel-chested, and wearing authority-like armor. "What's going on here?" he asked, already scanning the scene. Lanning stepped forward. "Sir," the vehicle matched. Delaney held up a hand. "Save it." He turned to Franklin. "Justice Monroe, I am so sorry. I didn't realize." "You didn't need to realize anything," Franklin cut in. "Your officers needed to do their jobs. Properly. Without bias." The crowd applauded. Delaney swallowed hard. "There will be an investigation. Not an internal review," Franklin said, stepping closer. "Not a desk memo. You're going to open this publicly. You're going to answer to every single person here tonight." Delaney looked around. He saw the faces. The cameras. He nodded. "Yes, sir." Franklin pointed to the bag. "That wasn't mine. You're going to find out where it came from. And you're going to find out how it got into my vehicle." Lanning didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her silence screamed. As internal affairs arrived, the neighborhood stayed. They stood for Franklin. They stood for every person who'd been profiled, humiliated, erased. They stood, not because of who he was, but because of what he represented. The next day, the video went viral. But Franklin Monroe didn't chase cameras. He called a town meeting. At Brookstone Hall, packed to the walls, he outlined a reform plan: body cam mandates, community review boards, racial bias training with real teeth. And then, midway through the forum, someone stepped through the door. Rachel Lanning. In plain clothes. She walked to the front. Asked to speak. "I did this," she said. "I saw a black man in a nice car. I saw something that wasn't there. I violated every protocol because I thought my instincts were enough. They weren't. And I'm sorry." Some gasped. Some booed. Others were silent. Franklin didn't speak. She continued. "I'm stepping down. And I'm volunteering to work with the oversight board. I won't run from what I did." And with that, she left. Not as a martyr, but as a warning. Franklin turned back to the community. "We don't need perfect officers," he said. "We need honest ones. And we need each other." Applause roared. Brookstone didn't just witness justice that night. They demanded it. And from that moment on, they never stopped.